Hi everybody, Jillian here for Illustrated Faith's Print and Pray Shop, and today I have a new Bible journaling process video for you using a couple of these really great alphabets that are new-ish to the Print and Pray Shop. They coordinate perfectly with the Word Nerd devotional kit. So at the moment, a friend and I are studying through the book of Hebrews together, and I have already started a little traveler's notebook of some of my notes and takeaways and things like that. And that's how I'm pretty much going to be working through the Word Nerd devotional kit, using those passages and with the methods that Taylor teaches us. So I thought it was really funny the other day. Someone asked me, when you're working on a project, do you stick to one format, whether it's your journal or a Bible or whatever? And I said, I stick to one format. And then immediately I am now moving from my traveler's notebook into my Bible. So I thought that was kind of funny. What about you? When you guys are working on a project, do you stick to one particular format, or do you just like to mix it up as you're inspired? So this is one of the sets that I'm going to be using. This is the Word Nerd Statement Alpha, and I wanted to show you here quickly that it comes in this horizontal format. But what I did was I printed two to a page on sticker paper so that I have smaller and more alphas. And then I also have the Word Nerd flashcard alpha here that I'll use for part of my title. They coordinate really well with the kit again. And then I have some of the digital ephemera from the Word Nerd kit, so I couldn't pass up a sheet of labels. And then I love these little journaling spots. So I customized them a bit. I stretched them out and made them a bit bigger, or I shrunk them down a little bit just to have a variety of sizes and colors to choose from. So I plan to use those for today's page in Hebrews 1 and 2, and I'm going to go ahead and start by cutting out my title, which is going to say Fix My Eyes. And I'll use an assortment of these elements to get that down. I'm looking to this sheet of labels to house the word my in my title, and instead of just writing it out or typing it, I thought it would be a good idea to use these Chasing Rainbows alphas that are in the they're in the Illustrated Faith shop, to stamp down that word. And then there was this really sweet digital set that Brandy Kincaid had put together called Lunch Notes. And so I included some of the black asterisks that you see me cutting out onto my sheet and just kept copying and pasting so I could use those as kind of fun art marks towards the end of my process here. So I'm using some StazOn jet black ink to stamp down the word my on this little label, and it's great. It fits perfectly. So now that my title is done, I have that figured out, I'm going to use these three starbursts that would make great journaling spots. In fact, that's how I plan to use them. But before I can do anything, I have to use a clip to hold some of these pages back. I got this idea from Shauna Noel. It's a great one. Eventually, these Bibles just get so big and bulky that we need some help kind of holding it together so that we can actually create in them, and that's what I'm doing here. So again, back to those starburst journaling shapes. I have the big one printed on clear sticker paper so that I can use some of these fun paper pieces from the Word Nerd kit and layer those on top of the blue piece. And then that mustard color and then the light pink color are on white cardstock, so I can actually use those as journaling spots. Next, I'm going to work on my background. Before I stick anything down, I had looked through my Neocolor 2 selection and some stencils, and I like to use my Neocolors with wipes. That's like the most successful application I've found. It's very forgiving for me. And so I picked, let's see, the colors Ochre, which is the mustard color that I'm going to start with. This bluish green is called Greenish blue, and then the pink color that I chose is Salmon. So I'm using a baby wipe to kind of swipe the end of the Neocolor, and then I'm pushing it, or rather dabbing it through the openings of this divided diamond stencil. This is an older stencil from Illustrated Faith. It will really work with any stencil that you have, but I particularly liked the shape. I have an idea of where I want things to go on my page, but you'll see that I ultimately cover up a bunch of my stencil work here, so I'm going to repeat some of it later on in the video. I really like having this one starburst kind of bleed over onto the right side there, so I like to let things hang off of the edge so that not everything just feels like totally crammed onto the page. So before I go any further, let me read to you the verses that I'm journaling. I'm kind of going to go backwards a little bit. So In Hebrews 2, verse 1, the author says, "Therefore, we must pay much closer attention to what we have heard, lest we drift away from it." In the Bible study that my friend and I are doing, we learned that that phrase, pay much closer attention, is a nautical term, and it's kind of like tethering or tying or otherwise securing your boat to a fixed object. And so, who is this fixed object that we should pay much closer attention to? Well, we're introduced to him in chapter 1, verse 1 of Hebrews. It says, "Long ago, at many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets, but in these last days he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, through whom he also created the world. He, Jesus, the Son of God, is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature, and he upholds the universe by the word of his power. After making purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high, having become as much superior to angels as the name he inherited is much more excellent than theirs." So the author of Hebrews is telling his audience, in these tumultuous times that you are going through, pay close attention to what you have heard so that you don't drift away from it. Pay close attention to Jesus and to his message. So I'm using my Neocolor crayon here with a paintbrush dipped in water to highlight my verse, and then I'll go ahead and add some paint splatters around the page. So this page was a prayer for me, though I'm not facing particularly persecution. These are tumultuous times, though different from the original audience. And I want to fix my eyes on the pioneer and the perfecter of my faith, the sure and steadfast anchor of my soul. I'm using the Word Nerd stamp set here. I love these little words that we can just dot around our journaling and use as prompts also for our journaling. So again, on those labels, I stamped the word prayer, and then down here on this journaling spot, I stamped the word cross-reference because I want to note that reference, Hebrews 6, 19 and 20, where it talks about that steady anchor of our soul that we have. And then Hebrews is just a great book to learn more about the one we are to fix our eyes on. And then up towards the top, I'll journal just a little bit more and then write my prayer down here underneath my title. I'm using the Illustrated Faith journaling pen for this part, and then I'm going to go ahead and underline all of it just so that it looks a little neater than it is. And that's going to do it for me. So I've got some close-ups of my finished page here if you want to check those out. The alpha sets that I used are linked down in the video description below if you want to check those out, as well as the Word Nerd devotional kit, which is still available in the Illustrated Faith shop. We would love to have you join us. It's going to be a wonderful time of digging into God's Word together so that we can know Him better. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you soon.